It seems every large company is racing themselves to the bottom and to bankruptcy because every time we hear about companies pushing for DEI in their products, people absolutely wreck them. And that is exactly what is happening because now we're finding out that the Unreal Engine coding standards require video game studios to use inclusive language in programming and documentation. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube membership. So I wanted to start with this Bounding into Comics article. And then we'll be heading on over to Twitter/X to read how much they're getting roasted for this news. It says, though, in proving that identity politics have quite literally seeped into the very DNA of video games, Epic Games has taken to encouraging developers who use their popular Unreal Engine to employ inclusive language in their respective titles' programming codes. Now, of course, Epic has been a very woke company for a very long time, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon, but they are pushing it a step further. Now, encouraging is the word being used. It's really forcing, devs to employ inclusive language. It says first added to the engine's official coding standards with the April 2022 release of the tool's 5th version, and recently brought to light courtesy of its April 2024 update. This new inclusive word choice clause sees Epic Games encourage, a very curious word given that they consider the following of said standards to be mandatory, users to use respectful, inclusive, and professional language when writing or documenting a given piece of code. Word choice applies when you name classes, functions, data structures, types, variables, files, folders, and plugins, explains Epic. It applies when you write snippets of user-facing text for the UI, error messages, and notifications, and it also applies when writing about code, such as in comments and changeless descriptions. So basically, they want you to be forced to use inclusive language every single time you write anything. They want you to subconsciously think about how, oh, I'm writing this in a certain way. Is this basically min-maxing inclusivity? It says to this end, Epic Games then provided guidance as to what words devs should and should not use in their writing. They say do not use metaphors or similes that reinforce stereotypes. Examples include things like blacklist and whitelist. Do not use words that refer to historical trauma or lived experience of discrimination like slave, master, and nuke. We are truly living in a clown world. The point where you no longer can say blacklist or whitelist because it could it bothers somebody, it could reinforce stereotypes as they're saying, is absolute insanity. They also talked about gender language. They advised devs to refer to hypothetical people as they, them, and their, even in their singular, and anything that is not a person as it and its. For example, a module, plugin, function, client, server, or any other software or hardware component. So now you are being forced to refer to, again, as it says, hypothetical people as they, them, or their. Now, obviously, I talk a lot about the gaming industry on this channel and a lot of the changes that are being made at the company level, but we have gotten to the point where even if half of the activists got fired or quit, we would still have tons of policies like this in place, so we wouldn't even get good products being made. We would still see so many people being forced to follow these different guidelines, these inclusive language clauses, being forced to, use these inclusive standards, because the people who were in the industry before them implemented them. I personally love video games, don't get me wrong, but the industry is in a very bad state. Even though it's making the most money that it ever has, that is not going to stay the case for much longer if companies do not do away with these absolutely ridiculous inclusivity standards standards. Like I always say, the best people for the job should be getting hired for the job. They should actually be listening to customer feedback. They should not be implementing things like this. But companies like Epic do not care, and they have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down. I mean, they're even going as far as to warn devs to not use profanity. You are telling adults not to do something as simple as swear or use language you do not find to be, the most warm and welcoming. I have absolutely no problems with profanity. Somebody else who works at the company may not have any problems with profanity, but that doesn't matter to Epic, because it only matters that Unreal Engine users are being controlled. I mean, look at how much censorship is going on with the industry that we as customers see. We are told as adults, oh, well, this type of product isn't modern, it's not inclusive, therefore we're forcing developers to censor what they're creating, never mind actually seeing it on the developer side of thing. And again, there are a lot of activists within the industry who probably think these are absolutely fantastic things to put in place, these engine coding, standards, as they're calling them. But we are seeing a lot of people now fight back on Twitter/X, voicing how unhappy they are with this decision. Of course, it's Epic, right? Epic is an extremely woke company. They've talked for so long about cultural crossover and how they aim for a cross-cultural realization of the metaverse, catering to diverse interests. They have things like these very, intense community rules, how they encourage you to treat others with respect and avoid demeaning or marginalizing language. Of course, equal employment opportunity policies and whatnot. But people are saying the fact that you are basically implementing these rules in order to force developers into thinking the way you think the industry should be, that's not sitting well with people. How does this make games any better exactly? Well, that's the problem, is it doesn't. It is sheerly optics. They simply want to seem like they are a good company, that they are an inclusive company. They want to get their, ESG scores up. Is Epic going to do code reviews and be hunting down offending comments in codes? They're going to scrutinize class names, variables, all kinds of data structure names. How is this even enforceable? The point is that it is still there, so if they basically ever want to cancel anybody, or anybody is ever reported, they can easily, point back to this and say, oh yeah, refer to our inclusive language policy, and then there you go, you're banned. Why does everything have to be, LGBTQ all the time? Why does everything have to be inclusive all of the time? My question is, why does everything have to appeal to modern standards, right? Because, of course, that is just a big old excuse to implement control. That is what is happening within the video game industry right now, is every single company wants to control the people who are buying their products, and they want to be able to ban us at any chance they feel like, and they also want to control what is even being created with their software. And of course, like the article said, this is not new by any means, but they are actively updating it, meaning they're not planning to scrap this anytime soon. So at this point in time, Unreal Engine coding standards require video game studios to use inclusive language in programming and documentation, and they are getting absolutely roasted over it. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.